Hey,
All right, here we are.
here we are, Right Guys Podcast, taking over the airwaves.
Episode 1, the beginning of what is to be a beautiful journey, I'm sure.
I was gonna say to consider your radio towers poisoned. So
That's right.
we're on completely different.
I like that though,
Yeah.
sorry radio, because here we are, and there's no one's gonna be listening to anything else but right guys.
Mm,
We are the right guys. I'm Micah. This is Ben.
thank you for introducing me.
And we are this is our podcast we've been working on for a while. We're really excited about it. It's finally here, about a year in the making, and this is a podcast for writers. We're writing nerds. We love writing, and we wanted an outlet to where we could connect with other people of all levels of writing and share writing, share projects, talk about things that keep writing at the forefront of our minds.
Yep, we're stoked about this community, this opportunity, this whole idea of getting to write together. And there's nothing that we want more than to dive into this episode. This episode is about introductions. We're going to be talking about that topic at length at the beginning. We're going to be going into some segments after that. These are kind of just fun activities or portions just to shake things up, just
Yeah.
to shake up the conversation.
Oh
a little
yeah,
bit.
just get a little crazy. There's a lot of fun happens in here. We've already actually shot the episode, so we know what happens. But we're going to be going into. We've got a segment, real fun segment called Lyrical Deep Dive that will be returning. And this one, we're going to be going into some Oh Sleeper lyrics. That's going to be really fun.
Yeah, we're gonna get answers to some of those long-awaited questions that we've had boiling for Micah about all those strange worlds he's creating.
Yes. We're going all the way back to the beginning on this one. And then also bring your shovels and defibrillators, because we are going into an episode, the first ever episode of Dead Words, where we travel back in time and visit words long abandoned and decide which ones to revive and bring back to our vocabularies.
All right, yeah, guys, don't be scared. Don't click away. But there may be a dead word coming back to life in this episode.
I think there is.
Yeah, I can personally guarantee it.
Halloween just passed. We did track this right at Halloween, so it was very fitting. But then we are wrapping up with our our writing challenge, which this week was same but different, where we give you a sentence and you have to rewrite it using none of the words used in the sentence, and you can't use any of the words in the sideboard, which was very devious. And this one was the dog buried a secret in the backyard, which is exciting.
Yeah. And there's a ton of good submissions that we got for that. We're super excited for you guys to hear that, to hear what we wrote, share those as well. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Make
and then
sure
we
you
got a new
guys-
challenge at the end of it, but you have to get all the way through it to hear that one. So before we dive in, everybody, go check out our Instagram. It is at Right Guys Podcast, Facebook at Right Guys Podcast, and we will soon have a website, rightguys.org. Without further ado, you ready?
Yeah. Let's go.
Let's go. Hey, here we go. First
Wow.
Right Guys Podcast, episode 1.
Welcome to the table.
Yes, welcome to our bar. This is the Right Guys Bar. As you can see, it's very cozy, low lit, vibey. If you're listening on podcast, you can't see this, but let's set the scene. What are we looking at here, Ben?
We're looking at a saloon type atmosphere with kind of it looks like whoever designed this background had kind of an excitement or fascination with some type of musicality.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I see there's like a stained glass acoustic guitar back there.
Seen a guitar.
What's
Yeah,
behind me? What's behind me? Can you see
nice,
me?
dude. Thank you. Good
Yeah.
job doing the background.
Yes, that was my handiwork, everybody. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So, why don't we start off with some introductions, as we said? I'd like to introduce my co host, Ben Orthy, here. Hi, Ben. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Thank you.
It's really good to see you.
Yeah, you too. It's crazy. Like this simulated environment really does a lot for um, the human mind. I don't know. Like I feel psychologically like I'm actually sitting in a room with you.
I do too. And in fact, I'm in Texas and Ben is in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, you may have been fooled into thinking that we're on real lives.
This is not our actual bar. Maybe one day you'll come to the Right Guys podcast bar and Ben and I'll just be sitting here like this, tracking episodes.
Yeah.
Who knows? But this is Ben Orthy, though, everybody, and he is a very close friend of mine. We actually started out, we met from my band, through my band. I met Ben, and we became friends really quick, and are now super close friends. I actually, I had the honor of officiating his wedding. Was awesome and beautiful. And we've how long ago did we start talking about doing this podcast together?
I think that was a full year ago that you.
God, really?
I think so.
Hey, some good things take time, you know.
And okay, things take time too.
That's true. That's true. I'd be happy with landing in okay or good, you know. But no, we've been talking about doing this for a while, and we've done many test calls, and we actually did. I flew, or we flew Ben down to Texas to have like a mastermind session and to record the first podcast, which
It was epic. This was in July.
yeah,
We
it
had
was.
a we had a great time. It was actually a very busy time.
Mm-hmm.
We had spent a lot of time working with audio equipment and video equipment, and ultimately, I guess what really happened is we underestimated how difficult it was to run it. It seemed really simple. I have to be totally honest. Like the core concept of capturing two sources of high quality audio and two sources of video simultaneously, and then being able to edit them all together into one cohesive thing while maintaining that it's two people having a live conversation with each other did not seem to me to be incredibly difficult at the
No.
time when we started this endeavor.
No, the whole format of the thing was the thing I was like, all right, we need to lock this down. We need to know what kind of segments we're going to have. How we did it, I was like, oh, that's going to be easy.
Yeah, and
Well,
so, so we prepare for a couple weeks leading up to the trip with ideas, planning segments, planning concepts, planning challenges, guests, and
hmm
then we get there and we're just like we have all this stuff that we're trying to set up, and it's like we're both like music people. We each have we even have home studio equipment, and it was still just like two idiots fumbling with like sticks and
yeah.
stuff.
Well, then you get a camera in our hands, and it's like, okay, so how does the camera get to the computer, and how does the audio
Dude,
get to
I
the camera?
they made it incredibly difficult to film podcasts on. Like, if you want to film a podcast, don't get a DSLR or mirrorless.
No, no,
Like,
no. Get a webcam.
Mike and I both have good, high quality, like DSLR type cameras with nice lenses, and it's just like, oh, none of these can record for over 30 minutes in a row.
Right. Which is just a weird thing. That's just one of the fun hurdles that we found.
Yeah,
But
when why and why did no one tell me this? And I have a degree in film. I swear.
he does. I've seen it.
Like I showed you.
That's one thing that you got to know about Ben. He really likes to show his degrees.
I do. I am
Some of the
being.
first things. Walk through that door. I see. You can hang your coat on the wall right next to my degree. Yes. I'll be taking comments on that later. Um, but yeah, we
have you framed any like awards or degrees or anything like
Oh
that?
yeah. Well, I framed like albums and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
that's
actually
really
no,
important.
no, I framed like magazine interviews.
Yeah.
I actually have an award right here. No big deal. It's a Fort Worth heavy metal band of the year.
Oh wow, you
Oh
have that
Sleeper.
right on your desk next to your
Hey, just so happened to have it here. Hey, you asked about it. Careful what you wish for. Um, but yeah, all that to say, uh, this has been a dream come true. Today is it coming true. We're actually doing it, and we're really excited about this. A little bit of information about what this is a a podcast where we're just going to be talking about writing. We're going to go into the mechanics of it. We're going to go into concepts. We're going to be tossing around ideas. We're going to be diving into songs, books, movies, video games. Any type of writing is on the table, and any level of knowledge is welcome to join. Whether you've always wanted to write, whether you've been writing all your life, whether you have a project that you are trying to finish that has just been sitting on the shelf for a couple of years, this is for you. And Ben and we're not like professors or anything like that, but we do have a serious passion for writing, and both of us, our biggest dreams is to be full-time creative writers.
yeah.
So if any of that resonates with you, then we hope you find a home here with us.
Yeah, we want this to feel like a club that anyone can kind of just like jump in on from anywhere in the world and just be able to be in a community of like-minded people who just enjoy creative writing and just like share their work and get their work read and read other people's stuff, look at other people's stuff, have a good time.
Yeah, that was something that for me growing up, writing has had like it was always a free space for me whenever I could blow the walls off of it. But you know, there's a lot of things in school and everything that puts a lot of really uncomfortable walls on it, and there's a right and wrong way to do it,
Right.
and it can really
Sideboard.
suffocate. Yeah, there's annoying sideboards everywhere.
Sideboard. And dogs and secret bones.
Ben's referring to the challenge this week, which we'll get to a little later. But yeah, we have I feel like growing up, a lot of people maybe got turned off from writing because of every school assignment is like write a paper on blah blah blah, and it's just like ugh, it's always the most boring stuff. But it can be really freeing, and it can be a great outlet, and it can do big things. It can change Writing can change the world, and everybody's got a story. All you need to write a story is experience, and you can go with it. Yeah, don't matter how big your vocabulary is, you can write something powerful or just fun, and both are important. So yeah, we're the right guys. Easy.
It's only making me want to talk about the challenges more.
I know. We can't do it yet. We gotta tease it. Um, but yeah, so
Let's get into it then. So,
okay, let's get in.
do we want to talk about intros? I feel like I can talk. I could talk a bit about introductions as just as a topic in writing.
Yes.
Do we want to do that? Do you
I'll
want to?
intro. Oh, by the way, I haven't introduced myself. I'm Micah Kennard. I am the front man of a band called Oh Sleeper, and I have a number of writing projects that I'm working on. One of which is a children's book called Randy the Robot, and it is about a little cute little robot finding his life's purpose on Mars, and a number of other writing projects. But I fall into that category of I have a ton of projects that I want to get out, and it's so hard to get them across the finish line, and it's hard to not get distracted and everything. And that's another reason why we're doing this, is in hopes that it encourages us to finish our own projects.
Yeah,
So we're
right.
all in the same boat.
Yeah, we both have a lot of stuff that we're working on at once, and it's just like I think we've both realized that the hardest thing to kind of do is that consistent work of like putting in creative energy every day to just get something done, even if it's like crappy, and you're gonna go back and polish it later into something okay and then into something good. But like we both have had a journey
Absolutely.
to learning to and this podcast is a part of that journey, learning to just put things out and learning to get into the mindset of consistent creative work
Hmm.
all the time. And so the challenges, weekly challenges, bi-weekly challenges, whatever it is, it's going to be a challenge per episode. And we're going to be writing. We're going to
Yes.
be writing every week for sure.
There's a great quote from one of my favorite authors, Joe Abercrombie, who's just phenomenal. He was getting interviewed, and he's this new writer who came onto the scene, and he's won a ton of acclaim. And but he's a machine. Like he's just putting stuff out, and every book is so rich and good. And he was being interviewed. They're like, Joe, how do you do it? How do you put so much good quality out there like so consistently? Are you just always inspired? Like what's going on? And he was like inspiration doesn't write books. Chair time writes books.
Hmm.
And I'm hoping that like right guys for me is like forced chair time. If we get this going, then it's like, and we get to do these challenges, then I'm gonna have to focus on writing. And then once I am in the chair, that's kind of like the first writer's block.
Dude, and it's crazy like going in even this week in writing because I've known that my writing skills have been dwindling a bit in the past few years as I've been I was very involved specifically in writing like writing literature type word based things. Right now I'm writing a lot of music.
Hmm.
And so I'm sort of out of like I've been out of the literary headspace for a long time, and it's just so crazy how how natural it always was for me, and I sort of took it for granted to sit down and just be able to crank out like just interesting sounding paragraphs about details in a world. And it's like I sat down to do this challenge, and it's like I feel like it's something that I've also felt in conversation since COVID, just being more cooped up, having less interaction, having less practice, being using vocabulary, like being like I talk like an idiot now sometimes. And it's like I catch myself saying these like dumbed down versions of sentences with like all the most basic like forms of words in them, and it's just like, yeah, like this is just the way that my brain is now like communicating because it's out of practice
It's
with
absolute. It's a muscle, like it really is that creative muscle. And
it's already like by the end of the writing challenge, like I could feel like the ice thawing, like
yes,
like starting to like come back, and it's like super exciting, and that's what we're talking about, like writing every week, just doing something every week is gonna get that fire going again and get that engine running up to speed so that then when I go to my other projects, things that aren't challenges for the podcast, I'm totally ready to just go all in with my like lyrics, whatever it is.
yeah. That engine is primed.
Yeah.
Awesome. The same thing happened with me where like literally jumping into to this story. Well, once we posted the challenge, which we will again get to, another tease. But I remember we posted it, and I think like 10 minutes after posting it, I went and took a shower, and then immediately like an idea came to my mind, and I started write. I kind of got it on paper, and then went about my day, and then I was just thinking about it, and then I went back to the paper and I tweaked some things, and then I was thinking about it some more, and then I hopped over to another one of my projects, and I had an idea on it, and I started just going in, and it was just kind of like writing, and my creativity and my imagination is like this door that doing the challenge and getting ready for this podcast kind of cracked it open. And then the more that I worked on it, the door kind of opened a little bit more and a little bit more. And I want that door, I want to remove that door completely to where it's just
Mhm.
always open and
On a
flowing.
window.
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully that's what this does for us and for anyone listening too.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So let's dive into some intros.
Yeah, and speaking of intros, I mean, we're talking about just getting things out there. I think that is the most important takeaway that I could give about the like if you're sitting there and you know you want to start something and you're sweating over the intro, just do whatever you got to do to get something on the page. And
Yes.
that's if that means skipping, write the intro last if you want to. You know, we've got a great lesson in the recording of this episode. We're recording the intro at the end. Once
Yeah.
we already know what we have done and then we can actually be excited about it and we don't have to say I think we have good topics and I hope it's going to be
Think
pretty good.
I think it's
It's
gonna be a good one.
and we can
Got a
just
real good feeling about it.
know what we are excited about and then we can communicate it effectively and maybe that's the most important thing to do with an intro. So
Mm,
maybe maybe taking some time and and letting just things flow out and letting your story kind of unfold and then going back and taking a look at some of that earlier stuff, that introductory stuff later on. I know writing introductions can be incredibly difficult if you don't know exactly where you're going.
hmm
um, I,
The
I I sorry, go on.
no, no, the just the blank page. Looking at the blank page
Mm,
is the the blank canvas is such a daunting mountain to
yeah,
look at sometimes. Sometimes you swing in, you know exactly what you're where you're going, but
yeah.
especially when you just want to write, you don't even know what you want to write. You're like, I just want to write right now, and then it's like, but where do I start?
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it's like when I was a kid, like I would just write all the time, just writing stories and stuff and it's funny, I feel almost uniquely qualified to talk about introductions for a couple of reasons. One being I feel like I've suffered from more foibles and fallacies than anyone else when it comes to writing
Foibles
them.
is a great word, by the way.
I feel like I'm equipped to at least warn people about some of the pitfalls that my brain tends to go into. Um, but also, uh, I had big ambitions as a kid wanting to be a writer, and I started a lot of epic fantasies, super
Mm.
into epic fantasies, and knowing the genre, obviously, I never finished an epic fantasy novel or anything similar to that, but I did write about 10 or 12 introductions, and that's about it. So
Do you still have those anywhere?
yeah, for sure, I do have
That
like
would be
most.
really cool to dig some of those up and
Yeah,
check
we
them
can
out.
for sure. Um, but there was like this quiz I took as a kid. Um, I was really attached to the concept of wanting to be a writer from a young age, and I remember taking a lot of quizzes like this to just like I don't know. I guess identity things as a kid. Everyone likes taking quizzes or personality things.
Hmm.
But there was one of those like BuzzFeed Quizly Blogly things that was like are are you a good fantasy writer? And this was like my like Brett. I was like ding, like this was like triggered all like whatever dopamine responses
This will
my
give me the affirmation I need.
the caveman brain knew exactly. And so I clicked on it and like so it turned out it was like I thought years later, and it turns out that the quiz was like, are you a cliche fantasy writer? It was like, do
Oh
you?
God.
And it's so funny because not only was I grading myself on that rubric, but in the way that any kid will grasp onto any sort of wisdom that they see in the world when they don't know better, a lot of things in that quiz sort of just passively, subconsciously became my benchmarks for good storytelling.
Like
And
what were they?
so the operative one that I talk about and that I want to talk about here was that the intro to your story is like 50 to 100 pages of nothing happening. It's just like you just have like a really long, just like quiet, long beginning, just a long takeoff, just like really like slow and like really well thought and methodical. And I was like, I was like, dang, like that's tough. But yeah, like if you can get to page like 80 or 100 without having action, once that starts, like people, and this was like based on so like because I don't know, I as a kid it was hard for me to read, I guess, and books always seemed so long and intimidating, and so the beginnings always seemed so immense and like boring, and
Mm-hmm.
it was always like such a trudge to get to the catalyst, and I, like obviously I was someone who was begging for action the whole time, but I didn't really know what I wanted even. I just passively accepted like, oh, I guess it's a good thing to have like a long intro and that's what I should like and that's what I should write. So that's what I'm going to try to do. And so
God,
I
I
just
hate stuff like that. I absolutely hate it. I have no attention span. If you're going like if like something hasn't happened within the first like two chapters, about as far as I can go without something cool happening, or I'm
yeah,
like,
dude,
all
I
right,
mean
why
like
am I
my
reading this?
man is terrible. And I'm like I have a terrible ADHD and it's like I don't even
Same.
know. I'm like so I can't follow it if it's boring, but I just expect it to be, or that I did at a certain age. Right? Eventually, I learned that these are cliches. You start the process of detoxing, but those hooks are kind of deep, and it's like some of those
Yeah.
things. I don't think that it actually was all bad. I think that what I thought made a good intro. I think I did understand writing principles. At the same time as I was holding this fallacy in my head, I was getting my writing in front of teachers, in front of friends, in front of family, and people getting it critiqued and improving. And so I think, holding what was a cliche and ultimately learning how to do something interesting with it, like learning to in your intro not just go like super extreme right away, but tease them in with more interesting, subtle character
Mm.
intricacies. And using that time to set up character development often is more interesting than explosions, right? So like making sure that you do have some time, like having a setup at the beginning of a book is important. And it's like it did give me an appreciation for that kind of a thing, having at least something to establish that you have investment in the characters, having some form of maybe development that you can then have attachment to the characters before shit really hits the fan.
Yeah. That's interesting. So it's almost like this kind of scar, this
Yeah.
childhood scar, put a constrictive writing exercise like on your entire approach,
Yeah.
which forced you to like you had this uh, this this event that you wanted to get to. You always had this action that you wanted to get to, but you were like kind of using that as the carrot in front of you to keep like
Exactly. And
building a world.
And what was cool is it creates dynamics because
Uh,
the loud parts are only as loud as the quiet parts are quiet, right? This is the same, you have this in all forms of art. It's contra.
yes,
And so,
got to have the valleys to appreciate the mountaintops.
exactly. And so that knowing, and especially as someone who loved writing action and horror and like a lot of like super violent fantasy, um, I I think without that constraint, it could have been too pedal to the floor, if
Mm.
that makes sense. It gave me sort of a balance of like always wanting to also on the other hand hold like a very very calm and suspenseful opening and a
Mm.
lot of moments throughout where there's more room to breathe, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you know who's got just the best uh, hand on that fader is Brandon Sanderson with
Mm,
the Sanderson Avalanche. Like he does such a good job of starting out. Well, he does kind of the intro. Well, at least in Stormlight, he does the intro style of like boom, throw you in to this crazy thing that's happening, and
right.
then and you're just like it kind of sets the scene, and then at least in Way of Kings, it's like 4,000 years later, and then it's this slow progress, and it builds up, and then it's like the avalanche happens, and this huge event happens. But somehow he always builds up a bigger event after it, a bigger event after it, and a bigger event after it. And these are massive books that go on forever, but he's got such a great handle on that dynamic, like bringing you down and making you focus on the micro, and then this massive macro thing happens, and then
Yeah,
bringing it back in.
I think that that happens not only across the course of the series, but within each book. I
Mhm.
think as well as a microcosm, because you have sort of these slower introductions to the book where the climax of the previous book has been resolved. You have the months of quietude where the conflicts are just first forming, and then by the climax of like the last one that I read was the second one.
The
The
second one,
climax
oh,
Words
what
of
was that?
Radiance is
Words of
just like
Radiance. Yeah.
there's so many problems
Yeah.
come together at once, and it's just like you've given up. Like up 50 pages ago, you're like, for sure, most of the characters are dead,
Uh huh.
and like, the world is probably gonna, and there's supposed to be like 8 more books in this series or something,
You have
and it's
no idea how's he going to get through this? Like it is the biggest thing you can imagine, and then he
yeah.
somehow
I
makes
mean,
it bigger.
yeah, I absolutely love that about those books. Yeah, the tension, the building of tension is always great.
Hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
So, what about what are your favorite types of intros?
Mm. I gotta say, I wasn't expecting that one. What do you mean by that? Like,
Well, like if or I guess so now that you realize that is a cliche,
how?
like when you
I
sit
get what
down to write an intro, like where do you kind of fall? Like how do you what's your
Yeah,
groove?
I mean, I love to start with, like you said, it's something that hooks, right? Like so, action, like Sanderson starting with action, like is super good. So while I am talking about having like a slower paced kind of intro to a story, I think having the opening scene being something that can really reel people in, and not just like the hero is taking care of some chickens
Right.
and the first part. Like that was an intro to like an early story that I wrote, and so that's like a lesson learned. It's like the whole beginning was just on a farm, and the whole story is about like his trip to this city where he participates in like this big tournament, and there's like magic and stuff, and it has nothing to do with the chickens.
Yeah.
The
How
idea,
long did you stay on the chickens?
just this, it's just a scene, like it's just a it's just a page maybe of him doing stuff, but it's just like it's enough to be like, what the heck is this about?
Right.
And yeah, so I like an intro that um has like a hook, but you don't like. I love to see like a someone like like walking down like a hallway really fast, like sweating or something,
Uh-huh.
or like 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 they're worried about something, but it's not like you're seeing a fist fight as like the
Yes.
you know. So like building tension in like an unspoken way that you're then expecting to see like a setup. So like yeah, I like
I like that
because,
too.
because it's an opening to a book, you have a lot of, or a book, not necessarily. It's because it's an opening, it's an intro. You have opportunities to create those unknown sources of tension that are ultimately the most compelling.
Hmm.
And yeah,
Yeah, I like that. I tend to go more for the because I find myself more on the side of I never know how to start things, and I just have to start. I just have to like barrel through and find myself. Maybe I'm at the end, maybe I'm in the middle, and then I can kind of look back and see what the intro should look like. But that's happened a lot in songwriting for me, where I'll think of like a one liner for like a breakdown or something like that in the middle of the song, and and then and be like, oh man, I love that. Put it in there, and put it into the song, and then I'm like, okay, so what does this mean, and what needs to happen before this, like, and what comes after it,
right.
and that'll happen with me in storytelling too. where I'll just have an event and I love it. And I'm like, oh, I could write this whole event out. And as I'm writing this event out, I'm looking at it in my head and I'm seeing characters and I'll write them all out. And then I'm like, okay, so how did they get here?
Yeah.
And where is this in the story? And so I'll find like one of my favorite intros is in a book called The Grey Knights Omnibus, a Warhammer 40K book. Actually, our drummer Zach Mayfield bought it for me. Thank you, Zach. But it starts out and it's immediately Space Marines drop potting into this demon infested planet or infected planet. Like the whole planet is a demon itself, and it's just like it is like brutal imagery right off the bat. I'm getting violence. I'm getting gore. I'm getting like epic space battles. Like just insanity. And you're learning these characters. You basically like from like what they're screaming through their Vox channels, and I was totally new to the series, or to the whole universe of Warhammer, and but already like in the first chapter, I had such a great idea of what the time was, what was possible, what the physics are in this. Like just the whole kind of world building was there, and I had a hero, and it just really set this huge bar, that I that that affected me. I really liked that. I liked that a lot more than um uh and I absolutely love Game of Thrones and most respect for it, but just as somebody with ADHD and like really hard focusing problems, starting out and like jumping around story to story to story to story to story to story, and trying to keep track of all these houses and stuff like that, when I don't really have a reason to care yet, just kind of like
Yeah.
informational world building,
Right. Yeah.
that loses me. And so it's harder for me to follow that. Like I got into to Game of Thrones after Shane actually bought me the first book, and I tried getting in, tried getting in, tried to get in, and it just didn't click with me for whatever point wherever I was in my reading writing journey. It didn't. Then the TV series came out, and now now I'm like, okay, I really want to go back and read that, because of course George R. Martin is absolutely amazing, and I know I've got a lot to learn that I can learn from him. But also since then, and this is something that you and I were talking about last night. I'm totally transparent about this. I didn't read books really. Like for the first like couple albums that we put out, I didn't really read at all. And Shane reads a ton, and he always like pressed on me. He's like, man, you are doing your imagination a disservice by not reading these books. You've got to get into this. And it's just always been hard for me. Reading's always been hard. The focusing and sitting down and like I'm reading a page, and then like I start thinking about something else, and then I'm turning the page, and next thing I know, I don't know what was on the last page, and it's hard. But then audiobooks came out. So up until I'd say our second or third album, I had read like two, maybe three books my entire life.
Yeah.
Uh, and all my inspiration came from movies, video games, and music, uh, and poetry and stuff like that. But now, since coming across audiobooks, I've read 27 books, and I'm stoked. And now I feel like I can appreciate some of these authors that I came across early on in my journey, like George R. R. Martin.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to dive into that.
I mean, have you listened to the Game of Thrones audiobooks?
No, not yet.
It might be tough still. There's a lot of character names. I
Yeah.
read audiobook form. It's so hard for me still to keep track of branching details, like you were saying, like trying to keep track of the house names. I feel like
Hmm.
would be even harder for me.
It was nice. It was nice having that in the format of. I love the intro to Game of Thrones where you have the map.
Mm.
That actually really helped me
Oh, you
put.
watched? Oh,
Yeah, yeah. I watched the show.
that'll be easy to follow character names and everything then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Okay.
but even in the show, that map, like
Yeah.
which
Oh,
by the way, can we talk about maps and how much you love maps when they're in a book? Oh
we
my
want to do that right now. Just a segment on
God.
maps right now.
I just
Is
want
that
to. I just want a little sidebar. I love maps.
I love a good map, dude.
God, even like in a video game when you got a map when you unfold it, I'd be like, oh
Like,
yes.
do you like it like you like when your character's holding the map like in game, or do you mean like if it's in the menu or anything, you just like a good map?
No, no, no. I'm talking about if they give you a map with the game, like a tangible,
Oh,
real
you
map that you could
think
unfold.
in your art book, whatever. You're
Oh
right.
yeah, I put those on. My growing up, I had maps on my walls. Like, oh, it was. I definitely had the Lord of the Rings map on my wall. Shane had the Lord of the Rings map on his wall.
Same.
Yeah, dude. Anyway, sorry, but
I
gotta love a map.
Just the map. I love a good pirates treasure map.
Oh, treasure map's good.
Love
Yeah. Well, I would just say this for intros. I feel like the biggest thing for right guys right now is don't get caught up on an intro. There's a million different ways to do it. There is the long, slow start. There's the farm boy with chickens. There's and then there's drop potting in on an alien planet and with no preparation whatsoever, and they all work.
right.
There's everything in between. It's just get started writing. Don't get stuck up on the intro. Dive into whatever you want to get to. Like if the intro is something you're just trying to get through to get to something fun, get to that. Write that fun thing first and start running, and then like you will gain momentum. Go back and
Super
be
hard to do.
inspired on your intro later.
It's a good lesson for me. I historically always write A, B, C. And it was interesting hearing you talk about your process, starting with a scene in the middle and working out around that. Because when I write, like it's actually super similar, and I think it's um, I don't know, like when I write from the intro, I'll write from the beginning, and I don't normally skip around, but I also don't know where the story is going. It's a
Mm,
lot like you said, where you're looking at what came before, what had to happen to get here, and what would happen after this. It's like I've learned throughout my years as a writer that this is called intuitive writing.
mm,
And it's when you don't outline or sculpt, you hypothetically are putting characters into like a petri dish and seeing what happens,
oh,
and
that's
like
cool.
letting their sort of motivations play out. And oftentimes like an intuitive writer will be as surprised as an audience member upon a twist happening. And this is something that happens to me when I write. And it's like it's really interesting to hear you talk about doing that from the middle of the story, because it's something that I've identified for myself as I've kind of participated in different forms of art, music and drawing and things, that this is how I do everything. It's not just writing, like intuitive storytelling or intuitive creative direction. It's like just starting from a point and working out in high detail.
Mm,
And like when I draw, I just start with an eye when I draw a face, and it always starts in the same point in the eye, and it works out from the eye. And then when I'm finished, the face is finished. And it's just like that, what you were
mm-hmm,
saying. So finding the scene that you want to write most, the scene that's most interesting to you, and getting something down on paper that isn't just something that is just a bullet point and an outline, because you don't know the full story yet. It's something that you're building out, and the beauty of what you are building is what inspires you to write the next part.
mm-hmm.
You inspire yourself because you're writing the scene that you're most excited about, and so you don't if you're not right, like hypothetically, I think what the alchemy that's happening is because you're not just writing an outline, you're writing the part that you're most excited about. You're actually seeing it as something exciting and not just your writing project. And you're able to get into the headspace of being excited about what happens next, being excited about what came before, and reading it with like a sort of fresh set of eyes, almost of the same eyes that the audience member would have when they're really interested in reading something. And so I thought that was a cool thing to point out.
Yeah, no, that's that magic point that I hope if you're listening to this and you've never experienced that, it is so real and tangible when it happens, and it feels like you're on a roller coaster that you're also creating. It's crazy, like, but it's this boost of inspiration when like you said, like kind of putting your characters in a petri dish and being as surprised as the audience as you're writing it. That's happened to me many times, and that's my favorite like space to get into. So a lot of times I'll try to like create big event, and then like and then those two things inspire me on how they both like got this way, like how they came together. I lost my hands in the the camera, but yeah. So a big event and a big event. Oh, there they are. A big event, and then like I'm so pumped on these, I can kind of work together, and then crazy stuff happens as the story fleshes out. Sometimes I find myself going back to those big events, then adding things after that and tweaking them later. But just chasing that inspiration is so important. Inspiration is the valuable commodity here with writing. If you have it, don't ignore it. Jump on it. And as in later episodes, we'll be talking more and more about that and how to foster good soil to get inspiration built up, like things to do to like, and as such as like writing exercises and prompts and all that.
There's challenges,
Challenges, which we will get to. But yeah, that's something that I just want to encourage everybody listening. If you got inspiration, just run with it. Open a notes section and just start jotting stuff down, and see where it goes. You don't have to start at the beginning.
do you want to go into a lyrical deep dive, or do you want to talk about some of the totality of your work first?
Okay, we'll do a little bit of both. I'll do.
Can you tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about Randy the robot?
Oh yes, absolutely. So Randy the Robot is a story that I wrote, a children's book. I wrote it actually about 10 years ago, and it got I just loved the story, but I never thought about doing anything with it.
Can you
Then
tell Can you tell me like the story, like the basic story?
yeah, absolutely. So Randy is a robot on Mars who this is set 1,000 years in the future, and basically he's created by a brainianite, which is a super small alien race inhabiting Mars at the time, and Frabble, his creator, is a brainianite with a heart of gold, and he's this genius inventor, and he creates Randy.
Is
He
that
create
Scrabble right there?
Which one's Frabble?
You
That's Frabble right there. Hey, there he is. Hey, Frabble.
you get up.
um, he's sneaky. You gotta watch him. But Frabble creates human-sized robots for Brainianites to work out their Martian tasks on Mars, and Frabble creates Randy, but he doesn't give him an instruction manual. He releases he doesn't tell Randy his life's purpose, like the purpose for him creating him. He just releases him onto Mars for him to figure it out on his own. And he's got a little companion named Bug, and Bug has an instruction manual for Randy, and they finds out he's got all these gadgets and stuff like that. But Randy tries his gadgets; they don't work, and he thinks that he's a defective robot. So he throws himself away. And then all of a sudden he hears something. Um, and it's a cry for help. And he starts running around, and uh, looking for wherever this cry for help is coming from. He eventually can't find it. He goes back so distraught to Frabble, and he thinks that he's defective, and he's like, Frabble, someone needs our help. I'm defective. I don't work. I need like we got to tell somebody. And Frabble's like, what do you mean you don't work? You sounds like everything's working good to me. And Randy, they kind of replay his search, and he's using all of his gadgets in this search. He just doesn't really realize it because he's so focused on the prize. And Frabble reveals to Randy that he is a helper bot, and he made him a helper bot because true happiness lies in helping others. And so all of his gadgets work as long as he's helping somebody. So that's a story of Randy the robot, and it's really cute. I'm really excited about it. It's going to be the first book in hopefully a series of many books. But that's my
so book. I love like how casually perfect it kind of like the thematics fit together. Like it feels so. I mean, the images of it, we'll have them up on the screen, are just like beautiful, and it's so like you were like Frabble, the name. That's what I was like kind of losing it over this time when you're telling, because it's just so easily like just casually the perfect name.
Thank you. Thank you. I was thinking about gnome names for my characters in WoW, and I had Frazzle was one of them, and then and Frabble was a quick hop over. Just thinking about some like gadgety little gnome.
Yeah.
But thank you, man. I'm really excited about it.
In addition to Randy, I mean, you have a ton of other stuff going on. Are you doing a comic book?
Yes. So I started a comic book that I've had to table because I just had to finish. I had to finish a project, so I decided to focus on Randy first.
Gotcha.
But I started a comic book series that follows our album, the Titan EP, through Bloodied Unbowed and on.
All one consistent storyline.
Yes, exactly. So our album Titan EP is a concept album that follows this boy who's born blind, and this is in the near future, and then Bloodied Unbowed picks up 30 years in the future from the Titan EP, and it's kind of a dystopia futuristic setting. But I have it's going to be an adult comic, so I'm really excited about that because being able to write a kid's book on one hand, where it's all just good feels and everything like that, which is a big part of my personality, and just huge imagination and just go wild. Then being able to go and write this like gritty adult comic is also freeing because in O Sleeper, we have been in a very constricted writing environment, just due to the following that we have and being labeled a Christian metal band for a while, which we've fought hard to just be a metal band. What I write has always been the same, but to label your band like that is just ridiculous to me. But either way, there's certain things I can and can't say in our albums that are true and that need to be said. Like you can't I choose not to cuss on our albums and stuff like that. But I have no problem with cussing. And I love words. And sometimes a cuss word is the best word. It's just another paint on the palette, and I want to show the darkest darks so that the brights are brighter, just like we were talking about with the valleys and mountaintops. And so writing a comic that is the storyline that I've been so invested in, that's so ingrained in my head, but being able to blow all walls and restrictions off of it, where I can
Yeah.
show there can be cussing, there can be gore, there can be nudity, there can be love, there can be all sorts of stuff like that. That it just wouldn't run through the filter that would be filtered out when releasing our music.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. That's
so so
exciting.
that's a really fun, exciting project. And
Yeah,
then
super interesting for you. It's like um, with going back and forth between Randy and that, and
yeah,
just knowing your sensibilities as a person, like you were saying, you're such a happy guy in many ways. But really, are you happy, or do you just like hiding from your pain?
I don't know, man.
In the
is
end,
is
it
this
comes out one way or another.
is this all a show? Is my extreme optimism just to cover up my extreme dark shadows? I don't
Right.
know. There's some dark stuff up in here though. But
Yeah.
it feels good to outlet the dark. And I think that
Yeah.
that's another thing I'd like to encourage everybody listening to. Like, don't be afraid of your dark. Don't be afraid of your contrast. Don't think that you have to write just one thing.
Oh my gosh, dude. I heard the greatest metaphor about shadows the other week,
Give
and
it
I
to me.
completely forget which writer said this, but it's the closer you walk toward the light, the bigger your shadow gets.
Ooh, ooh,
Or you walk toward your shadow, the smaller,
oh, oh. Okay, so the last part again.
the farther you walk toward your shadow, the smaller it gets.
That is so good. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh
Oh,
man, that works so well.
I know, dude.
That is beautiful, man. And that's something that it's interesting in the Christian music scene, which I'm very familiar with now. It is a no to even talk about the dark. And people get upset when you talk about the dark. And it's like, well, why would you do that? Like, that's not of God and all this stuff like that. And it's absolutely ridiculous because to ignore the dark is way more dangerous than to keep it in front of you.
Yeah, when you see a culture or a person who assumes the characteristics of denying the existence of darkness, this is the most dangerous
Yes.
individual. Like you see a show like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, right? Where like it's just like abhorrent characters, totally like ridiculous behavior, just like they're completely terrible people, and it's like, but this is what the show's about, right? And so they're writing this, and it's like these are people who I trust are actually like very morally understanding people because they understand the scope of what they're doing and why it's ridiculous, right? If you get a truly evil person, they're not going to get on TV and write jokes about how evil they are. They're going
Right.
to, and it's like seeing understanding of darkness is almost always a sign of holiness, I think.
That's beautiful. I think certainly a sign of spiritual maturity and consciousness. Like you have to. Both are going on with everybody. Every preacher on stage, every person, every lead singer, every whatever. Like every person your parents, everything. Everybody has dark in their life, and everybody has dark in their story, and everybody has is wrestles with that duality. And to deny that or to just not talk about it is I don't see why people think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
It's
people who haven't seen the darkness in themselves are people who haven't confronted it.
right. And stories that deny the darkness are very bland. You can't relate to them. Like they're really hard to click into. It just seems like it's just kind of like, it's just shallow. You got to have it. It's part of that dynamic.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the other projects, what else have you been working on? We got Randy comic book.
Yes. So Randy comic book started a novel a while ago that I do hope to finish. That is specifically the Titan EP. And I thought about going back after that. With whatever I learn in finishing that, going back and doing novels for the first O Sleeper albums,
Mm.
like the
Very
Son
cool.
of the Morning through Children of Fire and stuff like that. That'd be really fun. But also, I've got these ideas for fantasy novels that I really want to do too. So I don't know. I'm kind of all my other writing projects are just kind of floating up here, and I'm kind of hoping that Right Guys and releasing Randy, along with the new O Sleeper album that we're working on, I'm hoping that getting these things across the finish line are gonna just
Mhm.
really help shine light on what I need to focus on next.
Well, right, guys, definitely could help. I could assign a novel challenge next week.
Okay, we got
You
1 week. Hammer out a novel.
your whole yeah.
Well,
I
cool.
am excited. We are one thing that we talked about with the challenges. We are planning to sort of surprise each other week to
Yes.
week. So this week, I've prepared a challenge for you that you don't know what we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
You're not going to like it.
Get ready. Oh man, I'm stoked.
I'm joking.
Oh,
You're going to love it. It's great.
oh, good. Because I just say no, I don't want to do it. So there. Let's hop onto this next segment. I feel good.
Yes, yes, yes.
So what we
So
got? We got the lyrical deep dives coming up.
yeah, let's hop into flagship.
To flagship. Okay, so to flagship is the first song my band O Sleeper ever wrote, and it was also the first song that I ever wrote lyrics on, because I was a pop punk bass player before I got into O Sleeper, and they were the first guys to trust me with the pen.
And so what was it like just starting out with did they really fully trust you right away with like all your lyrics like and what was the process like for writing because like obviously with metal with like breakdowns maybe very rhythmic your focus is like what you have to match so tell me about that.
So no, like very recklessly they trusted me. I was completely brought into the band because of my MySpace page and that I looked like a cool guy. I had a handlebar mustache. I had a cutoff jean jacket. And
How old were you?
oh geez, I think I was 21.
You had a handlebar mustache at 21.
Yeah, buddy, come on.
I'm trying to picture.
No, I had a pretty poppin' MySpace page, and I remember Ryan, our drummer, our first drummer, and co-founder. He messaged me and he was like, "Hey, you look cool. Do you play guitar?" And I was like, "No, I play bass and do background vocals." And he was like, "Oh, so you do vocals?" And I was like, "Yeah, background vocals." And he was like, "Okay, what else do you do?" And I was like, "Well, I'm in college for screenwriting." And he's like, "Oh, you write like lyrics?" And I was like, "No, like movies." And he was like, "Okay, well, do you want to come hang?" Or he's like, "So, what kind of music do you listen to?" And I was like, "Oh, I like metal. I like Scarlet. Every Time I Die, Meshuggah, Deftones." And he was like, "Oh, awesome! I love all those. You want to come hang out?" And this is at like midnight.
I
And
see
but
this is a tradition that you've continued. This is when I get calls from you is you
yeah,
from between 1 and 3 a.m.
yeah. What are you doing? You want to hang?
in the studio. Yo, Ben, can you put
Ben,
Bin,
Put it on FaceTime. Let's rap.
need more rap verse on this track. Bin.
That's happened multiple times. We'll get into rap later too. We love to rap, but anyway, I checked out his page. They were in Terminal at the time, so like his stuff looked super legit. His pictures look pro, and I was like, yeah, I'll go check it out. So went over, hung out. We met up at a Whataburger, and
Choice.
ended up crashing over at Shane's house that night. We all got in the hot tub, and then we practiced the next day. And that was when I wrote the first line, or the actually in the middle, the bridge section was the first thing I wrote with to Flagship.
All right. So yeah, what I'd love to do is have you kind of go through line by line, if you have the lyrics in front of you,
Okay.
and and break down what we are actually seeing in the world, because this is all taking place in a story world, correct?
Uh huh.
So I'd love to have to see a breakdown of what we're seeing in the world with, because a lot of these lyrics are things that mystified me for like a lot of my youth, or
Uh
just
huh.
like were just like the cool lines that like a lot of them were just like mysterious enough that like I could get like vague images in my head of like things that were going on, but like I couldn't quite place like exact characters and scenes all the time. And I felt like some of it always went over my head. And so I just want to hear your breakdown of like literally like what the line means, like what each
Yeah.
sentence is referring to. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So here we go. We start out, and it's one step meets two, open in the C Street. And basically, this song was the first thing that we did. This song's the first thing we did as a band. This is the first time that I ever wrote a song. And it very much, but I really felt like it was, I felt like I was being called to do this. It was what I always wanted to do. It was really exciting to me. I had been in bands for about 8 years before, multiple bands. Really, I wanted to be a career musician so bad, but I also loved writing. And what
I
uh,
can relate.
what's that?
I can relate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was in college at UNT for screenwriting at the time, and I was playing in a band, and I got offered this opportunity to be in this band, or to try out with these guys. And I prayed about it. I just really felt like this is what I was supposed to do. And it very much felt like, um, that the story in the Bible of Simon walking out, or Peter walking out into the waves, like stepping off the boat into this
Right.
crazy
Okay.
storm,
One step meets two. Okay.
open in the C Street. Yeah, and like that's what it felt like for me. Like I felt like God was calling me to do this, and but it was terrifying, and it didn't make sense to me at all. Like I'm a bass player, and now I'm gonna be the front man for these guys who have all been doing it. Shane was in Between the Buried and Me. These guys were in Terminal, and like it's just like they were from a different world, and they were so good at what they did, and I was supposed to like step in and be the front man of this and control the message and everything, and it was insanely scary for me. But so that's why I started writing the first song about.
Yeah.
Um, and it was a one step meets two, open in the C Street. We will reign free, but I can't be king. I can't. I can't be the. I got to keep my eyes like on the motivation here. I gotta. I've got to. I can't rely on my myself here. Like I got to know that I'm here for a reason, and know that this is going to work out, and that I've got the support around me, um, to do it. Write me from this dead bulb. I really felt like I was going dim as a creative, and I felt like I had a lot of unrealized potential that I hadn't risen to. and I knew that if I was going to take on any kind of role of leadership, I needed to work that out. Um, and then it repeats: one step meets two, open in the C
It,
Street. We will.
it it's so cool how you use like different imagery, like the the dead bulb. Like that is one that I never, until you explained it to me, I never uh, understood exactly what it was saying because I just think of a bulb as like a plant.
Yeah,
I was like, it's like a dead dream of like a dead child plant or something. Or I thought for a while I thought it was temple. I thought that all the lyrics were wrong and it was the line was something about a temple.
oh,
I said,
nice. Well,
yeah,
it could work as bulb, as like a
yeah,
plant bulb, like a seed that won't grow or something like that. Like
yeah.
that could totally work. But yeah, then we will reign free as sons of the first king. When wave meets foot, a ship's wreck will drown its crew. And uh, that was just me replaying the fears. Like whenever I step off this thing, whenever I step into this thing, I'm gonna crash.
Mm,
Uh, this is gonna wreck everything. Like I can't do this.
yeah.
Just so nervous. Uh, every man must face the fears so he can brave. Please turn this vessel back to flagship so I can brave it. Hold fast and brave. Um, and that's kind of like the the response from my when wave meets foot. When I step off this thing, I'm gonna sink, and then the response of that is you've got to face the fears and brave. Uh, and then my response to that is please turn this vessel back to flagship so I can brave it. Hold fast and brave. And that was I had there were times in my life where I felt like I where I felt strong in a leadership position. I'd been like camp counselor a lot and stuff like that. I'd worked a lot in like youth groups and everything, and really felt like a firm footing. But it had been a long time since then, and I just didn't feel that confident.
Mm,
But I knew that uh, turn this vessel back to flagship, like something like the flagship is the pride of the fleet. So
mm,
I saw that as like turn me back to my proudest self, like to the not my proudest self, but to the self that you were proudest of, God, and and so I can brave it because that guy could do it. I know he could do it, um, and uh, and so that's what that and so I can brave it, hold fast and brave. Um, every man who steps aboard must face the fears and brave. We're all in this together. Uh, he must brave because even the most are we there yet?
Uh,
Where are we at now?
we were just getting to the brave part. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can brave it, hold fast and brave. Every man who steps aboard must face the fears and brave. He must. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we didn't get to the even the most careless ship will reign free.
Okay.
We were. Sorry. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Cool. All right. Yeah. So
Before we go into that, if you were ready to,
yeah.
I want to point out one more thing because it was just one of the main things I was noticing as we listened to the first part. Like I don't know. I sort of feel like one thing I've been doing a lot recently as I've been getting really into songwriting is like trying to break songs down into their core components that I can like take and like understand and then like retool those things and sort of use them. But I feel like a lot of songs can sort of be in a lot of ways broken down often into like one core idea like the song like Hallelujah, for example. Like there are
Uh,
many melodies in that song. Like a lot of the lines sound different from each other, but at the same time the lines have a certain like patterning that is like it's one idea. So it's like this like da 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 da, and but like every that's like one line, but although the melody changes, the a lot of that the rhythmic signature of that stays the same, and
yeah.
even the melody signature, not necessarily the notes, but the fact that it's two notes that are low going up to two notes that are higher,
Almost like
the
a theme.
exactly.
Yeah.
It establishes that there's a a single I think oftentimes core identity that you can boil a song down to. That's much more basic and fundamental than any of the wordy like conceptual things you could say about what the song means overall. It's just, oh yeah, this song is the da 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 song,
Yeah.
and it's like it goes beyond just melody and toying with that into rhythm and other sound based things of like I think a song is like just a core idea of like a repeated pattern or something that you can kind of groove to. And
Yeah.
in the song, I think the lyrics are there's a lot of parts that do that. The guitars have those elements and other things, but the lyrics have a great patterning. The rhyme scheme is very it's super in your face, but at the same time very subtle. Because like I feel like a lot of people won't even notice that it's a rhyme scheme, but
Hmm.
there's almost nothing in the song that isn't in the rhyme scheme. It's like this two word, and it's like you have this opening part where like it's not rhyming in the traditional sense where like all the syllables are doing the same thing. Like one step meets two, open in the C street, we will reign free, I can't be king, write me. But you start to feel these things like C street, reign free, be king, write me. Like there is a flow to the things that are happening, and it's not always a direct rhyme, but the places that it happens are rhythmic enough that you start to pick up this pattern, and it feels like a rhyme. And the way that you scream it, obviously, because you have a lot of choices in screaming and in singing in general, how you want to enunciate something, you can kind of bend those things to make them rhyme, and you do that very well in this song.
Thank you. And
Right.
it's funny, like that in itself, what made that was in itself a constrictive writing exercise for all intents and purposes. Uh, because the time signature and that it's written in, and the guitar riff and the drums behind it is like bop 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 bop
Mm.
bop 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 bop
Right.
bop bop bop. And so I'm trying to write a story, but it's got to hit on that. And so I'm really left with these kind of like two syllable barks that I got to get this thing through. And so what I'm and just the way that I write, I want full ideas, like in each little like chop.
Mm.
And so it really forced me into that. But now like once, like although it was a pain in the ass like to write like that, and to force my creativity down that road. Now like looking back at it, I'm so happy with it, and I'm so happy with how it turned out. And I would have never written this if that constriction hadn't been placed on me, type thing. And you see like there's a lot of repetition of brave, like hold fast and brave, like that's the answer to all of this, that I'm speaking about, and all this fear and anxiety that I'm having. Like the callback answer keeps being hold fast and brave, hold fast and brave. Like and the idea of being like being on a ship going through a storm. It's like, what do we do? We're in a storm. It's like hold fast and brave. Like we can't. There's no turning back. You're not just gonna. Oh, okay. Let's not be in the storm. Like, oh yeah, sure. Let's just turn back home. No, you're in a storm. You have to hold fast and brave. Like that's all we can do. Uh, then, because even the most praised of ships will wreck when the captain is careless. And that is uh, just like a focusing point. Like um, you're the front man. You're directing this vision. Like uh, doesn't matter how doesn't matter how gilded you are, doesn't matter how capable you are, or anything like that. If you're careless, you can definitely sink this thing. So focus up and take it seriously. And I was very distracted at this time, and I was definitely like really enjoying dating. and and that was definitely taking up a lot of my time. And I had this amazing band that wanted me to be in it, and we were creating this really cool thing. um, and I would skip practices and stuff like that, and uh, that was kind of like um, I guess a reminder, or that was me saying what I know. Like doesn't matter. Like if you're careless, like this will all go under. It doesn't matter that you're with these established musicians. It doesn't matter that the songs are sick. It doesn't matter that that this is actually coming together. That they like what you're writing. If you're careless, this will sink. Um, and then, oh Captain, the waves are like jaws dripping. Oh, let me not be made meal to the sea. And that was me just looking at all the self doubt that I felt like was going to consume me. Because everybody has their instrument that they've been playing and that they're tested and have been successful on, except for me. I don't even have the bass in front of me anymore, which is like a nice barrier. And I'm screaming into my bass amp that I brought to practice through like one of those connectors that's like an XLR to quarter inch, and it's like this long. No one can even hear what I'm doing. So there's all this doubt, and they're excited, but I'm like in my mind, I'm like, y'all can't really even hear me, like, and we're already talking about next steps, and we're talking about how like Epitaph is interested in us and stuff, and I'm just like I'm just terrified. Oh, let me not be made meal to the sea, because I want to be strong. Yeah, I want to see the cannons jump, strip my pride, let no fault meet this hull. And that, yeah, I want to see the cannons jump. That was like recognizing the potential of this band. And like, I kind of saw that as like being down below and seeing all these armaments and just seeing like this thing is ready for battle. This thing can survive. Uh, but if we go down in this storm, we'll never even see these cannons go off. We'll never see what this thing can really do.
Yeah.
And that was, again, like, I don't want to be careless. I don't want to sink this before we even get to see what it can do. Strip my pride, let no fault meet this whole. My pride has been, for me, my own personal journey has been the biggest thing for me to overcome. And that was just me recognizing that, and just praying that God help me contain that and not let me get a big head about it, not let me you know just kind of check out. But I know the reef's kiss, it cuts and sinks, draws me deep inside her. I won't fear her, through swells we will reign free. That honestly was the 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 idea of like what was really taking my focus was I I was feeling really full of myself, and in bands, like I like to meet girls through bands and stuff like that, and I like to uh, have fun with that and date through bands and all that. And with this, I was given the message, like I could write the message of this band. And when people found this band and it was going to be popular, it was already gaining popularity way more than any of my other bands, like super fast. Um, I I basically I made a vow to myself that I was like, I'm not going to date fans. Like that's it. And because I don't want to, because I will ruin this for someone who's supposed to hear it. I know I can do that. I will do that. And so, basically it was really tempting. It was definitely very tempting. Like as any band member, it doesn't matter what you look like as a band member. You can be you can be great looking. You can be the ugliest dude in the room, but you're in a band and you're going to get passes and stuff like that. And I knew that was going to be a big struggle for me. And so I started writing it into the songs right away, so that whenever I'm on stage and I'm singing these, I would be reminded of it. And that was like my own accountability check. But I know the Reef's Kiss, it cuts and sinks, draws me deep inside her. Like that was basically like I know how bad this will feel if I go down that road and ruin this with that. So I'm gonna remind myself of that and try to steer clear.
It's like the opposite of the R. Kelly, "Do you have your shots? Do you have your passport?" song.
Yes, yeah. R. Kelly and I are kind of a yin and yang, I'd say.
Yeah, you kind of met from opposite ends of the spectrum there.
Yeah, he's got like the voice of an angel. Mine's a little darker. The lyrical content probably swapped. But anyway, I won't fear her through swells. We will reign free. Like ultimately, I can do this. I can control myself and and no matter what happens, we're gonna get this. As sons of the first king, the sons of flagship, and that's obviously uh, sons of God. This righteous. Uh, um, what like this righteous
The
march.
banner,
Yeah, the banner to
the
fly under.
banner.
The
Yeah,
sons of flagship. And that's like the pride of the fleet. Like we will be the best version of ourselves. We will be the flagships of our own lives. And boom, that's to flagship.
very cool.
All
Very
right.
so epic.
Yeah, epic, bruh. All right, that's first lyrical deep dive. That's going to be a reoccurring segment as we have guests on this show. And just Ben and I are both big music lovers. A music
Yeah,
lover. Now I really hate him. Wrong
we
tombstone.
both we we both love writing lyrics, and we both are huge lyrics nerds.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of our own lyrics to talk about and things to say about other people's lyrics.
Yep. And
They're
so we'll be having songwriters on here talking and diving into their lyrics. We'll be bringing back Oh Sleeper lyrical deep dives here and there. So that's going to be fun. So yeah, now it's time for that next one. It's time for some dead words, baby.
You're running this one, right? So
Yes, I am.
I'm about to be surprised by some dead words. So this segment is basically we're gonna have is it 3 words this time?
It's 3 words.
I have 3 words that are old, dead, archaic words that we're basically we're getting our defibrillators out and deciding whether or not we want to resurrect these words, bring them back for good. And if we bring the word back, it's going to become a right guys. It's a member of the family
Yep.
essentially. So the words we're going to be collecting, these dead words, they're going to become essential part of our community vocabulary. There's going to be special kind of there's honestly not going to be like prizes or anything probably, but there's going to be some kind of special
Respect points.
respect points for using revived dead words in your challenge stories,
Boom.
things like that. And so right now I'm about to load up some words I'm seeing for the very first time that Micah has prepared for me from this dead words catalog. And we're gonna pop those up on the screen. But
Yes, and these words are brought to you by Little Book of Lost Words by Joe Gillard. I love stuff like this. I've got a couple books of endangered words and dead words. Yes.
I just see on
Uh,
the screen there. You can see
um,
Ollie
so collie
Ollie.
wobbles. So yeah, so if you like this kind of stuff, highly recommend y'all check out this guy's book. He's got tons of these. But yeah, so collie wobbles is the first one. Let's talk about it. Okay, so collie wobbles. It's a noun. Collie wobbles. 19th century English. Okay, so what's happening in 19th century, Ben?
Don't. Dude, this is a bad idea. Last time, on our last, when we tried to record episode 1, Micah was trying to place the date of like every dead word that we had, and we ended up going into this like bullshit history segment. To people who actually don't know anything about history,
Yeah.
19th century, and it's like even that's kind of a toughie for me.
Same here too.
Kind of picture like what people looked like at that time, and maybe like go around some like names. I could try to write a scene that takes place in that time period, but I could not tell you historical facts. I do not know what was going on. Like I'm America existed.
America existed. Okay, I think we're like, yeah.
Oh,
I'm not even gonna try to get into that. Whenever I write in a different time period, I go straight to the books and look it up then I kind of memory dump as soon as I'm done writing. It's just like, okay, I was there, didn't
well,
learn anything.
I vote that we don't try to excavate any false facts about
Okay, that's probably safe. Okay,
it.
so collywobbles, stomach pain or sickness from nervous anxiety. A dram of scotch before your wedding ceremony can calm your collywobbles. We got a picture of collywobbles there. We put that up there.
Gosh,
Let's
yeah.
put the picture of collywobbles.
She,
Look at
she is certainly experiencing stomach pain or sickness from nervous anxiety.
she's got the collywobbles. I'm telling you, man. Woo.
I mean, you've made my job very easy, sir.
I'd say I'd take my first O Sleeper show. I definitely had a case of the collywobbles. I threw up all over backstage. Like we went in the first song, and I had eaten. I had a Sonic Ocean Water giant one and chili cheese tater tots. And after the first song, I had the collywobbles so bad. I ran behind stage and blew chunks everywhere.
Oh
So
no.
that's a true story. It wasn't the only time.
Yeah, I've had my fair share of collywobbles. I okay. Here's my instinct with the word. I obviously it's hilarious. Um, it is a very silly word.
It's silly. No way
If we
around it.
if we start bringing back too many silly words, we might have a problem.
Okay.
Because if this dead words list just becomes a list of all ridiculous words and there's like nothing like then I think but this is a valuable one, and I
It's
think that
good.
for this we have absolutely no reason to think that we're already getting overboard with this silliness. So I'm going to say absolutely resurrect collywobbles. There's no way that I'm putting this one back in the ground.
Well, hold up. Hold up. Let's talk about dead words. Do we want to choose I sent 3 over. Do we want to choose one that we resurrect so we don't have
You can
too
only
many?
resurrect one. Okay,
Ugh.
I like this idea. So I'm
Okay.
not going to decide yet.
Okay, so let's move on to the next one.
Okay, jeez, this
Woo!
is turn it into a whole other thing, dude. All
I
right,
know.
remember to just respect the screen. All
Oh
right.
yeah, I'm respecting the screen. Oh, there we go.
Okay, there it is. Prunes.
Hey, fruits.
Uh, to frolic exuberantly with noise and energy.
Oh man, this is 18th century. Don't know what's going on there, but good stuff.
They would frunce through the mall, holding their frozen coffee drinks and clutch purses. Is the example sentence.
That's a perfect example. Oh, I love that. Good
Hilarious.
job, Joe Gillard. That's good stuff. Do we have a picture of fruits?
We
Let's see
do.
some people fruncing.
I love how
Oh, they're fruncing it up.
the styling of this book is like so like it's so self-aware about
The
just
Renaissance paintings.
right like the mingling of how much it is being modern slang while also being about old words, because it's like using these, I feel like, in like a self-aware kind of postmodern way.
Uh-huh.
Like it just seems almost like to have a sense of like zoomer nihilism to it,
I
where it's
I I love it too. Like okay, yeah, we're looking at this like Renaissance painting, and like these are definitely ladies who are fruncing through the mall holding their frozen coffee drinks and clutch purses.
right.
Look at them just twirling themselves and exuberantly with noise and energy, cacklings. Yeah, so fruncing is great. I'd love to have a good fruits. You know,
Yeah, dude. I mean, we all could use a good fruits.
I'll tell you what. After a few drinks, I fruits it up.
Do you?
I'm known as a fruitser.
Hey, Nice.
Yeah.
I
Okay. Let's.
didn't have any fruiters, but that's good to know. All right.
Okay. This next one, that's a good one.
Smatch it. Smatch it. An ill-mannered, despicable person.
Ooh, what a smatch it!
Gosh, dude.
God.
That that is really good. See, what I was saying about collywobbles, this one captures, I think, all of like the punch and the usefulness that you expect from one of these really ornamental dead words without becoming like silly. It's like it's gritty enough.
Yeah.
That snatch it, stole my purse, and then frunced away with it.
No, that smatch it who stole my purse. I bet he's fruncing about spending my money at the
Spinning
mall with
collywobbles.
frozen coffees. And I'm stuck here with the collywobbles of what it's going to do to my bank account. I get some points for working all three into a sentence just now.
Oh, we've
I think so.
got to put the picture of the smash it up
Oh,
there.
let's see. What does a smatch it look like?
That's amazing. I
Oh, that's a smatch it if I've ever seen him. Okay, so for people listening on the podcast, like, what are we looking at here, Ben?
Yeah, I'm sorry. This guy, I mean, this is a lot like the guy actually I was imagining when you said that you had a handlebar mustache when you were 21. It looks like he looks simultaneously very young but also very grimy.
This is very much reminiscent of my MySpace default.
It's
So
so
this guy's got a gigantic hat on.
they've perfectly captured like the careless, aloof drunkard energy um of a totally like degenerate adolescent teen from the 18th century.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. This is a smatcher. This guy is so ill mannered. He's despicable. 19th century Scottish word. Our example is don't be a smatchet. Call your mother.
Yeah, dude. And
Boom.
I think I mean we can debate it if you want to. I think I know which one I need to bring back.
Wait, okay, okay. You've got one. You've got one revive
Yeah.
needle, one
Do we have
adrenaline needle.
do we have another one? Like do I have like one revive, one like booster shot, and then like gun or something? Like I kill one
Okay, how about
before.
this? Okay, all right. So we'll do this. We can revive one, and we can carry one over to the next challenge. But and then one's got to die. What do you think about that? Or do we just put them
It's
all?
pretty good, but what that actually does in terms of natural selection is like ultimately kind of give us like get us a pool of like second best words, right? Like it helps
Uh
us to
huh.
find things that are like not quite the best. But although if we no, yeah, because we want more words, we want to see more words. We want to do new ones every time. I
Yeah,
don't think we go past.
I think you got one
Yeah,
defibrillator charge.
yeah. Okay.
All
I'm
right.
bringing match it.
You going to smash it?
I feel like I have to use that word.
Yes. We are in total agreement. Smash it is my choice too.
Okay, good.
All right, so let's warm up those defibrillators. Here we go. And smash it.
That,
This guy comes into life.
this fucking guy.
This fucking guy. All right, so Smash It is now in play. It has been
Yeah.
brought back to life, dug up. We're covered in dirt now, leaving the mausoleum where it once was resting since the 19th century in Scotland.
What was going on in the 19th?
Like I said, guys, we're not professionals. Never claimed to be. But okay, so yeah, so in writing challenges in the future, if you work Smash It into it, you're gonna get some respect points.
Yeah, especially this week.
Yep, yep.
Especially this week.
So speaking of writing challenges,
Is it time?
I think it's time.
Wait, so what should we do first? Should we read ours to each other? Should we go through
Okay, well let's say what it was. All right. Why don't you tell us what the writing challenge was?
Okay, so same but different. It is a challenge to write a story between 50 and 250 words about a prompt that must really explicitly kind of include something happening from a prompt in some way. That's a really restrictive. It's got to include just this thing happening. But while it's same, that's the part that's same and same but different. The different part is you can't use any of the words from the prompt. So like our challenge this time was the dog buried the secret in the backyard. So like dog, buried, secret, backyard were all words that we couldn't use in the stories that we wrote. But in addition to those four words from the sentence itself, Mike and I also devised a devilishly
Woo!
challenging sideboard of words that you also would not be able to pull from. And these were words that were similar to dog, bury,
These were
back.
low fruit, so to say.
And so the idea of the challenge that we're building with these restrictions is that it's hard enough to just recreate the prompt that you're kind of freed up from having to worry about any other parts of it being good. You're kind of just like, if I can just creatively find a solution to this problem, then that's all I need to do. And that's what we're talking about doing on this podcast, getting you out of like creative stumps, getting you out of creative ruts, just putting rubber on the road to get some work done.
Yeah. It forces more tonal suggestions or tonal selections. You start choosing words that have connotations and have their own color to them, and you're like, oh, that's a dark word. Oh, this story is going dark. And then you keep choosing, and it's like it starts out with such a bland, boring, shallow statement. The dog buried his secret in the backyard. And what has come out of this? We posted this up on what was that? Monday, Tuesday?
Saturday or Sunday, I think it was last weekend.
Yeah, it was only up for a few days, and we got over 50 submissions, and they're all over the board, and it's so exciting, and I was so pumped. And one of the coolest things was just kind of the proof of concept already showing fruit with messages that I got that was like. I was like, man, I haven't written in years. Thank you so much for putting this up. This was so fun. And that is exactly why we're doing this. Like there's no point systems or anything like that as far as we're not here to like show who's a better writer or anything like that. We're just here to get writing. Let's just get writing. And that just felt so good already. We hadn't even recorded the first episode, and it was the concept's already working. So
Yeah.
just really excited. We'll dive into them. So what we're going to do is Ben and I have also written stories, and we're going to share ours with each other. He hasn't heard mine. I haven't heard his. And we've also picked. We've both picked 3 stories that we really liked that we wanted to talk about. So I think we start out with let's start reading let's do ours last.
Okay.
Okay. You want to go first?
Why don't you go first? Because I have more than 3, so I can draw from a bunch in case we have overlap.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So my first one was submitted on the comment section of my Facebook page. And this is from Justin. And Justin did copyright this. So he put a little copyright logo in his name. So don't try to take this. So this is, let's see, the year 3542. The world changed over centuries since the war. Few humans had managed to survive and continue the human race by evading the sentience. The word resembles scientist, those who created them, but whose meaning was an ironic joke, since the sentience had no traits of its meaning. Today would change the fundamental balance, bringing hope to survivors. Hope much needed, as those alive had experienced nothing of the sort. Jacques was seizing an opportunity to venture out with the sentients, where uh, while the sentients were compelled to their metallic hives, they would remain long enough to re-energize, providing them the stamina to continue their domination for another 2 months before retreating again. In what had once been a thriving residential community, Jacques noticed an object partially protruding from the ground. When he brushed the years of detritus, he noticed something: teeth marks from that once ubiquitous family pet, now extinct since the world had changed. Brushing the age from the surface, Jacques makes out barely legible letters on the case. Tattoos. Tattoos. A family pet had obscured an old body art tool with its own biological excavation tools. Why? Continuing, he revealed the answer to total overtake of sentience. Tattoos. The canine bite mark made it unlikely to be a joke. Jacques tucked the container under his jacket. He was determined to uncover its truth. Doing so would set off a chain of events no one could have predicted.
Pretty epic. Did you do a word
Yeah.
on that?
Huh?
Did you do a word count on that?
It's in the zone.
Yeah, that's a good like I'm just curious because I think it's really telltale like when it's exactly 250 words. I just like knowing the psychology of that.
Yeah. Let's see. I'll do a count on it real quick. Let's go word count. Um, Here we go. Let's see. So he's got to be 50 to 250. He's definitely past 50. Hey, 249. He did it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Great. It's like it's so crazy to hear that and think that he fit that in after doing the challenge, knowing how tight I had to get the scope
Yeah.
on the thing. It's like he actually set up a little universe.
Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome. I was blown away that I really loved finding that, and after going through a bunch of stories and then seeing this, it was so out of the box of what I had been thinking about, and it had this whole like feel to it and everything. And I really liked. I loved that he used detritus. Detritus is such a great word. Um, and I also loved teeth marks from that once ubiquitous family pet, and like that's how he said dog. Like that was so cool. Like the dogs are extinct now,
Right.
and this dog hid this thing, being a good boy.
Hmm.
But yeah, so good job, Justin. That was awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, Justin.
All right, what else you got? What? Give me one of yours.
Okay. Um. All right. This one was super good. This was, I think, from your one of your Facebook posts in the comments. This is from Jessica. Do you have one from someone named Jessica? Do you want me to not do this one?
No, I don't have one from
Okay.
Jessica.
The time had come. The damp brown earth laid smooth and untouched. His fur itched and his ear twitched. Bailey, come here, whistled Parker, the red-headed boy that chose me from the sad place. Just one paw's worth of soil, Bailey thought. Bailey, come, now. His voice agitated. Bailey huffed and went inside. After dinner, Parker opened the back door and the smell of ozone hit the back of Bailey's nostrils. Saliva began to form and was soon pouring out of his wrinkled mouth. Bailey shot out the door and flew over the stairs, not touching the aged wood. He went to the back left corner of the blue shed and pulled out a small silver disc. He picked it up with his mouth. Soil and grit covered his tongue. He found it. His first family had given it to him before they took him to the sad place. Sadness filled his heart as he walked over the virgin ground he had scooped out earlier. The soil went flying as he unearthed the brown particles. He dropped the silver disc with symbols into the ground and covered it without looking. Unknown to him, his first given name was engraved there, but he would never know it. He never knew love until after the sad place. His boy opened the door. Bailey threw up his head and ran toward the sound. Parker scratched his neck, the scar of the embedded collar still pink. This is love, he thought.
God, I loved that one too.
Yeah, super sweet.
Great pick. Yeah. I loved the the dog perspective and
Right.
and
Ozone hitting the back of the nostril was like one of the best parts for me. The whole dog perspective was done super well. The sad place,
the sad place. Yeah.
right? And I love the take on the challenge of the secret being a secret to the dog and from the dog. It's like it's totally the dog's thing. It doesn't
Yeah.
do with anyone else in the world.
Right.
It's just the dog is the character who's dealing with the thing. And like I think I might have just said this a few minutes ago, but like all stories are about people. And it's like I was saying, like it might be people or it might be aliens or it might be creatures acting like people, but it's always like about people, and that's like because that's what we're interested in as people. And
Yeah.
it's like she wrote a story about a dog that is ultimately again a story about a person because like we're assigning human characteristics to the dog, but at the same time, this one's done extremely tastefully for a dog perspective. I think where it really is blurring that line. This is kind of not a story about a person. This is kind of about a dog. I think it maintains enough of like a mental split there. Super
Yeah.
cool.
Absolutely. I loved that one too. I wrote her back and was talking about the sad place, how I loved that, and and you mentioned a really great point of that, how it is just all confined to the dog. You know, it's everybody else is completely secondary. And it's his boy, you know, like the
Yeah.
dog is the boy's dog, but the boy is the dog's boy. I loved that. Okay, so the let's see here. The next one I want to share is from my wife, actually. Jenna hopped in on this challenge, and I was so stoked that she did. I had no idea what was going to come out, and when I read it, I was blown away. So this is actually about our dog Lulu, and it, we always say that Lulu's a daddy's girl, and she's my little weirdo, but she's obsessed with going outside. And like as soon as she gets in, she wants to go right back out, and she's just like she'll go out alone. She's a totally independent woman. And Jenna wrote this story about her. Meek and submissive, an easy choice to claiming her position as the beta of the pack. This is the place where her curiosity would not be questioned, nor her attentiveness to what was beyond the window pane acknowledged. But unknowingly to her fellow playmates and even her parents was a peculiar and unrevealed truth, a place that she longed to be. Even after moments of being separated, her sanctuary could only be found deep beneath the soil. For she was more than just a descendant of ferocious beasts or a four-legged friend. Her late great-grandmother had been used as a sacrifice to form a blood path between animal and magical humans who fell from ships in the sky. To this day, the creatures of the forest gather with their fellow otherworldly creature friends to celebrate the covenant of two species becoming equals, but not her. She had been taken to be adopted by a family who would never truly understand her and what made her magical. For the fence that confined her would never be enough. Because of this, her search for contentment would last as long as she lived. She only had one piece of memorabilia left, the magical knife used by the otherworldly king that took her great-grandmother's life. The blood-stained blade was the only thing that helped her remember she was more than just an animal. She, too, was otherworldly indeed. Boom. So she drops that on me, and I'm like, aliens and
What's
Lulu
yeah.
and blood path
Wait, same name.
sacrifices.
It is Lulu.
It's
Is
Lulu.
right. So where is this established?
So this is established just in our backyard. This is like she wrote this like looking out the window at Lulu, just freaking out, like running back and forth along the fence and everything. And so
Okay.
she creates this like basically Lulu has buried this magical knife in the backyard, and that's where she always wants to be. She wants to be near it. She's called to be near it because it just makes her feel closer to what she is, but she'll never fully know. And when I asked Jenna about it, I was like, so is she? At first, I was like, is Lulu like a werewolf or like what's going on? She's like, no. So aliens observed Earth and found humans to be uh, too
Yeah, they're
greedy, like to be a match, and to be unworthy of contact. And then they saw dogs and how perfect dogs are, and they decided to contact with dogs. And the two species came together, and they both offered up a human sacrifice as a blood pact of like a blood pact treaty of peace. And her great grandmother was the dog that was offered up.
so not
Uh,
a human sacrifice, sacrifice of one of their own kind.
yes, they
Right.
each kind sacrificed one of their own to symbolize the.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome.
So I was so proud of her and so blown away, and I was just like, yes. So
Yeah.
good job, babe. That was amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. Thank you, Jenna. All right. This one, this one I like a lot. Uh, this is from Brandon. The shovel came to a sharp halt, the sound of the metal impacting a solid object. Intrigued, I took a knee and brushed away the soil compacting around the unknown item. I knew Halloween was next week, but I never imagined I would uncover a skeleton while working in the garden. At least that's what this appeared to be. It was small, only the size of my index finger. Same shape, too. My wife was in the kitchen, just cleaning up a recent spill caused by our mischievous German Shepherd. I called from the garden as I walked back up to the porch. Hey, honey, come look at this. Should I call someone? The police, maybe? She took a quick look and laughed. I wondered what happened to the leftover chicken wings. She gave our German Shepherd a playful glare. Rocky, are you trying to save some for later? I sighed in relief. That answers that. Maybe our guest is hungry too? I brought the old, mostly eaten chicken wing down to the basement, shoved it into a small opening in a wooden crate, and started walking back upstairs. A weak, almost a weak, almost whispered, "Thank you," came from the box. Good night, I replied as I turned off the basement light. Happy Halloween.
Oh, oh, that twist is so good.
Yeah, such a good little. And it's so like I don't know what I loved about this one was just how tastefully it seemed. Like the whole thing was just written in like a very consistent voice. I appreciated it a lot.
Yeah,
Just
it felt effortless. It
yeah,
felt
wait.
and the twist at the end, I could just see it, like the whole setting of like carelessness behind this, like or just like whimsy or whatever you
Yep.
want to call it, uh oh oh, it's a chicken wing, and
Yeah.
they just like walk down and just kind of like, here you go.
It's all so casual and then the
Yeah,
twist is
casual.
so casual and it's all written so casually.
And then the happy Halloween. I mean, that's something. I mean, got to give props to worked in the season too, so that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, for sure. It was just a super fun little moment and scene that I appreciate a lot. Yeah.
All right. So this is the
Your
last
last
one
one.
I chose. Yeah. All right. This is from Daniel. This was on the O Sleeper page, found in the comments of the writing challenge. Um, and he said, and this is another thing I love that before it, he said that I've never written anything before, but decided to try anyway. So that is awesome too. It pumps me up. It's exactly what we want. And if he's listening, Daniel, you should definitely keep writing, brother. All right. As the sun was at its peak, young Miles was finally ready to have a go at the piñata. Today is his birthday, 8 years old and happy as ever. With the piñata tied to a tree branch and his trusty baseball bat in his hand, he was set to go. After 10 spins, Miles was so dizzy he could barely stand. Swing 1 is a wild miss. Swing 2 is solid but didn't break. Swing 3, he winds back with all his might, and the bat crushes the pinata, and candy erupts in sugary bliss. As Miles and friends rush to grab as much candy as their little hands can carry, a loud noise echoes close by. Confused as to what the sound was what the sound was. It was came from. Oh, sorry, I got confused on that. Um, came next that it was what came next that caused concern. A vast and large cloud of dust filled the air and was heading in their direction. Moments later, alarms on the adults' cell phones began ringing. Soon, videos started popping up talking of a large beast clawing at the earth. You couldn't make out much other than the large pit of human remains and the beast that caused it. The beast was massive and had two very distinguishable features. He was red and had a tag with the name Clifford.
That's amazing. Did you not send me that one? I didn't see that one.
That was on the sleeper page.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Thanks, dude. That's really good.
that was awesome.
Yeah.
I kind of saw like kind of I like it kind of played out in my mind like Cloverfield, the handy cam one, and just
Yeah.
like and like it turns in like this, and there's just like this cloud, and it's like you can kind of barely see through it, and then you just see like this like a zoom in of like this pile of human bodies, and then like it goes to this like a blurry wash of red with Clifford on a name tag or
I
something.
can
It's
already see a CG Clifford just like
yeah,
destroying a city.
yeah, dude. Oh, I loved it. That was great. Way to go, Daniel.
All right. My last one is one that I got from um, a professional writer from Neenah, Wisconsin, award-winning writer Michael Hopkins.
All
Um,
right.
so look him up if you want more stuff uh, in the vein of these sensibilities. I'm gonna try to do it justice. Get my best audiobook voice on.
Yes. Let's go.
We found traces of lime in the back of your truck. Detective Fields held up a bag with white powder in it. We use it for gardening to help soil acidity. Diane Williams wanted a cigarette, wanted to bite her nails, wanted the telltale heart in her head to stop beating. She went through the checklist for the 100th time. Dispose of the poison, cut up the body, bag the parts, clean the tub, drive to the Northwoods, make the grave in the middle of nowhere on her father's 800-acre hunting land, dump the body and the lime, fill it in, and leave. What are your men doing with shovels in my garden? One of our cadaver shepherds is onto a spot of interest. Another detective, wearing blue rubber gloves, handed a bag to Detective Fields as he whispered into his ear. Fields turned to Williams. What's this? She shrugged. My husband's hunting retriever sometimes conceals toys there. This is a section from a tibia. Detective Fields handed the bag back to the other detective. Mrs. Williams, place your hands behind your head. You're under arrest for the murder of your husband. Williams really wanted that cigarette.
Oh man, that was one of my favorites too. I chose that one and knew you had it in there, so I picked a different one.
It's just so good, and it's like I wouldn't say disheartening to read, but getting it back to back with mine, I would say it gave me a lot of things to immediately talk about that I noticed. Of it's like he's styling on. It's like because it's 250 words, right? And I get this
Yeah.
feeling. So I've been getting into music production and guitar a lot recently, and listening to great guitar players is really disheartening a lot of the time. This sounds like they take these insane parts and write like, and you can learn an insane part, and like, it's crazy. Like these parts are nuts, but if you practice them slow, you can play them fast. Ultimately, it just takes time.
Yeah.
But it's like when you're playing something really fast, you get this like hurried kind of sound. And it's like when you hear a really great player, they'll play something fast, but it somehow sounds totally relaxed,
Yes.
sounds casual. And it's like when you have a writing challenge like this, 250 words, to get out a good amount of content to write. Like this was I checked the word count on his. It's like almost exactly 250 as well. But it's like when you have when you're working in confined spaces like that, it's easy to feel rushed, and it feels like sometimes you're giving out rapid fire bullet point details. And I would term that the same way I term one of my beginner kind of guitar solos, trying to imitate like Tim Henson, going through like a rapid fire piece. It's like a bullet point. You're just trying to get each note in there,
Mm-hmm.
and it just feels like you can try to get it all in, and maybe you get it all in and it's all in there, but then if you listen back to the recording, it's like they're all like the same like volume, like you were just going like
Yeah, your
hard.
velocities and everything like that.
Yeah. And what I felt reading my story back to back with with Mike's was like it was like he was styling on the 250, like he had time within those
Yeah,
250 words to just like be artistic
yeah.
and stylish and cool, and to like make lines that sounded cool. Like I had to throw out the window the idea that my lines could sound cool in this
Like he did,
challenge.
he didn't. He doesn't sound constricted.
No, not at all. It
Yeah,
sounds This is the most natural way for him to have told
yeah.
this story. And maybe that's more than anything a great understanding of scope. But
Hmm.
it's just like it's when you see it, you know what it is. And so
It's great execution. And what stood out to me about it that I loved was I really enjoy dialogue driven stories that aren't. It's not all narration. Like that like where narration is actually minimal and it's really just like two people having a conversation. And as you're reading how this person talks to another person and how this person responds and how they react to their environment and stuff like that, it kind of paints the picture for you instead of reading that they're under a street light or instead of reading that so and so was nervous. Like instead of like picking it up in in what they're saying in their dialogue is very interesting to me. And I find myself on the novel. There was like full chapters that I just had to get the idea out. So the whole chapter is just like all dialogue, and I've got to go in eventually and write in he said and she said timidly and as she looked out the window and as he twirled his pen. I've got to go put all those in.
well,
But
you started in screenwriting, you said, right?
yes, and that's there you go.
Yeah.
Like gotta put in the camera direction and stuff like that. But
Right. It's like all dialogue.
it just feels comfortable. But I liked that. I liked reading his that way.
Hmm.
Okay, so here we go. I guess who wants to go first? You want me to go first? You want to go first?
You go first. You go first.
You go first. Okay. All right. Um, here we go. So, here, I'm gonna read it on my phone. My screen is just too far away from me. Okay. There we go. Pongo hadn't left Rogers much since the mysterious disappearance of his children. As for Perdita, her spots seemed to fade as she lay in their bed day after day, not touching her bowl. He licked them all day, but he always seemed to find more of that foul earth in his paws. Would now there always be some inescapable trace? For while his withering mate slept, Pongo had been about night work in the garden. Work to exact his wretched mercy. But that's what it was. He couldn't forget. For what life is it to live in fear of being snatched and skinned, never to romp uncollared in the light of day? So a mercy it was, one for only he to know, a weight for one. As for his dear Perdita, she would live saddened the rest of her days, yes, but at least in the far corners of her mind she could play fantasies of their children being found and rescued by loving families. But Pongo, cursed Pongo. His mind and what threads of soul he had left would be forever in contest between self-hatred and righteousness. Time heals all wounds, Anita would say. Such solace. But no. Time was his foe, for it crept by in mulish slowness. The back window that once bewitched the clock to tick faster was dead to him. that view was dead to him. For there, beneath the roses, in earth and safe, he locked the bodies away, all 101 of them.
Wow. Yeah. You got me. I didn't see that coming.
Oh,
I forgot
bongo.
that Bongo's his name. I totally forgot. For those of you who don't know, that's 101 Dalmatians right there.
Yeah, baby. He killed them all.
Holy shit. He's been hard at work.
Dark times.
Dude, the lines in that are insane.
Thank you.
Like the way that you wrote it is just so great. Like I feel like every line is like a quote.
Thanks, man. Should we
Yeah,
should we send the text to each other on this
yeah,
thing?
I
I
need to
feel
read
like it. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna shoot it over. Uh, here we go. Man, I've been so nervous to read that to you. Read that to everybody. Everybody's submissions are so good. I was like, oh man. Let's see. There we go. Copy.
Yeah, you're I mean like your writing voice, it's something I'm aware of because you bring this like really signature kind of punch to your lyrics and everything. It's just not something I hear oftentimes, in written just paragraph form. And like I think actually, dude, you know what it reminded me of a lot, honestly, the lines from it reminded me of the things that you wrote for that brewing company.
Oh yeah,
Like how drenched
Wrath.
in the kind of just like Victorian, almost like poetic, like the gruel, like the slowness of time had cruelly, like, you know what I mean? Like
Bewitched the clock. I
yeah,
love like any like kind of Lovecraftian or poish, just
right.
dread
And it's
drenched
really
over
like
things.
it's that's really obvious to see, like from knowing you, that you're into that kind of thing. It's just rare to see someone super into it who can pull it off so effortlessly
Oh,
all the
thank you,
time.
man.
Oh, wait, so you said you were at 250 words too.
Yeah, yeah. So whenever we did a little test call last night, uh I was at like 100 or 90, and then right after the test call, I was like, nah, I want to work on it some more. And then I went to 290, and then I trimmed back to 250.
Yeah, going back over it now, like I'm able to understand more of the beginning now that I have the context of the end, like what he's talking about with what wretched to exact it, work to exact his wretched mercy. But that's what it was. It's so good. It's like this is the way, because it's 101 Dalmatians, obviously, like it's like a kid's thing, taking it and then drenching it in this kind of like darkened gothic texture of
Yes.
like the way the words are sounding is such like it's like a meme. It's like a hilarious. It's great.
Dude, I want to. I think I was thinking that we could um, create a segment called "Flip the Script," where we intentionally take a comedy and write it as a tragedy, take a tragedy, write it as a comedy, like and
Yeah,
do kind of like the 250 words thing. That
good
could be a
idea.
fun. That could be a fun challenge.
Should I read mine?
Yes, I want to hear it. Bring it on, baby. Let's go.
All right. Open docs, and here it is. It's called Moonbeams.
Moonbeams. All right.
Lorenzo clutched a tattered journal to his chest as he skirted the corner of a cathedral. Behind the church, a graveyard extended into the field and woods. The full moon illuminated a woman standing at a fresh grave beside a mound of soil. She did not turn to see Lorenzo approach. Sister Wilhelmina? She craned her chin. And you are? I I was told you have something I need. My wife has fallen terribly ill, so you've come for prayer. Lorenzo produced a sketch of a necklace, an amulet resembling a blazing sun. Underneath was scrawled Curse Catcher. You may be aware, But this is more than religious jewelry. Powerful curse protection. Have you seen? I cannot help you. She turned back away and clutched a hand to her chest. Forget this necklace at once. Leave. Never return. And speak of it to no one. Do you understand? Lorenzo tilted his gaze to a chain along her nape. He raised a shaking hand. I'm sorry. As he tore the amulet from her neck, Wilhelmina shrieked. Lorenzo reeled and fell. Moonbeams silhouetted her body, contorting and stretching unnaturally beneath her robes. She turned. The fur and fangs of a much larger beast sprouted from her mangling visage. Lorenzo screamed. When she finished her meal, she tossed his remains and journal into the grave. The necklace barely fit over her monstrous skull. She swiped soil into the pit until her paws turned back into hands, then finished the task with the shovel.
Oh yes, I got such Amelia vibes.
Yeah, yeah.
From
Yeah.
Vicar Amelia from Bloodborne. Oh man, I love that. I love like pretty much when you said Wilhelmina, for whatever reason, I went straight to the cathedral, and I was there, and like everything had that tone, and the voice was perfect too. I'm sorry. Oh, it's wonderful, man. So
Oh
so
yeah. I mean, I have a lot that I want to say about it, honestly. Like just doing the challenge got me thinking about so many things. Now that I've talked about it, like okay. So there like when I started this, dude, I got to 250. I was literally describing the way that the flame of the torch looked on the wall of the cathedral that he was walking by, and it was the first thing that I talked about in the story was the flame of the torch, and I got to 250 words, and I was at 250, and this was supposed like so the idea that I had was like I was like, all right, it's a dog, wolves are dogs, werewolves are dogs. This could be a werewolf burying a person. And I had this idea for a short story that I had already had called The Beast in the Apps, which is about a doctor who goes into a church to find like so he's looking for some cure for something, and he's like looking for something mysterious there, and he goes in. I don't know if you're familiar with like basilica type churches like that they have like in Europe and stuff. They have this kind of central podium toward the back of the church that you can actually go behind, and there's like alcoves in the wall in this back area, and it's this very kind of creepy little alleyway that just
Mm.
exists in these old Gothic buildings that um, is behind the pedestal where the priest will be speaking, and so it's kind of this very philosophically meaningful place. Like it's the place behind the curtain.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I just when Julie and I were traveling through Europe, we were going to all these like basilicas and churches, and so I was just seeing these things and getting like ideas for like stories and things.
Like
But I was
what is
just
back there? What's
like
happened back there?
one of the coolest evocative thematic scenes that I had ever come up with. I was super compelled by it. Was just this scene I was calling the Beast in the Apps, which was just like this doctor who goes into the apps, the alleyway behind the basilica, and just like this like there's like a werewolf like hidden, and he
Oh,
like a werewolf back like in the apps. And so I wanted to do the Beast in the Apps and essentially just like have this guy who's trying to solve some problem going to a church, and then the thing turns into, and it's like I kept paring it down like smaller and smaller and smaller, like more and more, to the point where it's just I realized obviously we're only writing a single scene. It's 250 words. For some reason thought 250 words was going to be like 3 pages or something, and it was like a paragraph. But yeah, like that was sort of what I want to talk about with like spacing and style and what it feels like to have, because I took a few passes, and I think after editing it I at least got like a consistent tone throughout, but still a lot of my sentences are purely describing action, which I
mm.
don't think is a bad thing, like because it's interesting. But I when I look at something like Mike Hopkins, my uncle, the one writer who I read last time, that is my uncle, by the way. So my like when I read something like my uncle Mike's story that has like all of this space to style in it, to do things that are outside of like not purely functional, that are like, yeah, I don't know, it's cool to see scope handled in different ways. I don't know, like
Yeah.
obviously to fit in my story, all the action happening on camera, obviously you do need to make those sacrifices, but it's just like
Hmm.
just
I think you did a great. I think it was a great balance because the all of the descriptors and the link that you went in on them like really painted the picture, and uh, you had a good balance of dialogue within that as well. Like I really didn't. I didn't. It didn't feel clunky to me at all.
good,
Um,
good. That's yeah.
yeah.
I was happy with it after I went through a few edits.
So she at the end she he grabs it
Hmm.
and it turns him into a werewolf,
No.
or it turns her. Oh, she turns into the. Yeah. Okay. So it was keeping her. It
Curse
was
catcher.
keeping.
His wife's ill, right? So he's looking for a cure for his wife, which is his wife's cursed with something. But this amulet prevents curses. And
Oh.
so what do you gotta not do when you're trying to get? You gotta not just take it off someone randomly because they might be cursed.
Yes.
But
Okay.
he won't give it to him. So she tells him, just leave, never talk about this to anyone, because she doesn't want anyone to know that she's a werewolf. So she doesn't anyone want to know that she's wearing this protective amulet. And this dude shows up with a journal saying he knows about it. And so she's just
Oh,
like, leave. I'll let you leave right now, but never speak of this to anyone. And he's like, I can't. My wife's gonna die. And so he,
dude, that is so badass. That puts a whole nother. Okay, so now it all clicks, and I also love it because I don't know. These kind of moments, like when you're talking about like a sick loved one and a rumor or a tale or like uh, I always put myself in stories, and I gotta think like, would I do that? And I need to hear that. I need to see that on both sides of a character, like whichever. If if I can't relate to either side of the reaction, that's when I'm starting to be like, oh, like that's not really a very well made character. But um, you have a sick wife who's dying, and you're at your last end, and you hear about this amulet that can cure curses, and maybe you even heard that it keeps her from being a werewolf or whatever like that. But that's pretty hard to believe. But having a amulet for some reason would be a little bit, maybe that would help. Maybe it's a charm, maybe it's got some kind of properties. Um, but I would try it. I would go. I would try to get that amulet if that was the last thing. And then and her reactions of like, go, don't do this, and don't speak to anyone about it. And
yeah,
then just
I wanted to
like,
show it like it's so it's there's a lot of the foreshadowing was another thing that I wanted to talk about with it, because so the story's called Moonbeams, and then it mentions a full moon in the first paragraph. So I was like, maybe people, since this is a dog themed story, maybe people will be like putting together like a werewolf type vibe. And I wanted that to be like a possibility that you could sort of get that from the foreshadowing. And her reaction to being someone who's alone, at a woman alone at night, not turning around to someone approaching, is like a
yeah,
telltale sign. Like she's actually not scared at
no,
all. She's just like scared for him.
right.
Yeah,
Oh, that's so awesome, man. I love it. So
yeah,
send me that. So I gotta get it so I can read it over a few times. Oh, this was great. Okay, so that
yeah. That does it for challenge one.
challenge one, something or same but different. The dog
Thanks,
buried a secret in the backyard.
thanks so much to everybody for sending in your submissions. You made this challenge fun and possible, and we're gonna be posting way more. Like we only talked about our like three of our some of our favorites each, but there were a lot more that we liked, and so like we're gonna be making some kind of editorial where we can like post a bunch of them and just roundups at the end of maybe every month or something once we have a bunch. So
Yes.
is it time to introduce the next challenge for next time?
Yes. So
All
we're
right.
wrapping it up. We're wrapping up the first episode, and we're going to be ending every episode with a new challenge. And in a couple days, we'll be posting this challenge again on our socials on Right Guys Instagram at Right Guys Podcast. It'll be on my Instagram at Micah Kennard. It'll be on Ben's Instagram. What is your?
At im.iumi. im.iumi.
And it'll also be on our website, which we are building. It's not quite up yet, but it will be rightguys.org. But yeah, so please get in on these because it's so fun, and I hope that everyone's just enjoying like brushing off the cobwebs of their pens or opening new doors that have never been opened before in your creativity. But yeah, so let's lay it on me. What's our next challenge?
All right, so the next one I am super, super excited about. It's a challenge that I'm going to be participating in. Obviously, we're giving each other the challenges week by week, not really knowing what the other person's going to present, but we also have to do the challenge each time ourselves, put our money where our mouth is, prove that we're just not trying to create the most frustrating thing possible. But so my challenge, I have no idea what I'm going to do for yet, is write a story that is also a recipe. So
Okay.
in some way, like when I'm reading this, like there should be like an ingredients list of some kind and then instructions of some kind. But overall, it should inform me of something that's going on in the world outside of the universe of this meal being prepared. Like it should show me that there maybe someone specific writing it or something about it that about what's going on in the world that colors the way it's written that then informs a story in some way. Hmm.
Okay. Okay. So a story that's also a recipe.
Hmm.
So not a story about a recipe.
No, a story that is a recipe, and you can take that super broadly. Like it's not like it has to like wrap up and be a meal at the end.
Right. What
It's
would
like
could you give us like like a very elementary example?
yeah, like someone like a mother who's writing a recipe while she's like taking care of her kids or something. And so like there's parts in it that are like, and after you put the baby down for the fourth time, you can go and do this. And then like, oh, and then it's like if your baby starts crying again, then maybe you should go back to it and like smack it, like whatever, like
Smack it.
right, like yeah, essentially, you get what I'm saying. So like create the story with the elements of the recipe by having kind of a subjective narrator that's maybe riffing on something else, or it's a recipe that's not for food. It's
Okay.
just it
So
just
yeah, a recipe could be anything. Recipe it could, you could write a story about a bomb maker and doing like a shopping list or something like
yeah,
that. Like
yeah,
you
and
could do
it's not like the ingredients list. It's not like this is necessarily a two-part story with ingredients list and instructions. Those are just like ideas of like those would be the elements that are kind of making it a recipe. But those could kind of be put if you want it to look exactly like a recipe where those are separated. That's great. That's awesome. That's totally in the challenge. If you want to do a story that mentions those things in a recipe type way, however you want to do it, if this is right, guys, you already know this is
yeah,
not
this is
good.
right, guys. We're just having fun. It's more like let's see what comes up. Let's see what people
Right.
do with this. So don't get too hung up on the rules.
Yeah,
And
it's
we don't have any. There's no sideboard on there. There's nothing's off the table.
for this one. I kind of would like it to be a little bit like you could make a story that's slightly more but not crazy, like let's say 400 or 500 maybe,
Mm,
400 words max,
okay.
but minimum 50.
Yeah.
Feel free to do short postable just something in the comments, or feel free to do a couple pages.
Okay. Well, let's just say we'll just do a minimum. We'll do 50-word minimum.
50 word minimum, 400 word maximum.
All right, 400 max.
400 word max.
Boom. Okay. There we go. So that's it. Write a story that is also a recipe.
Looking forward to it greatly.
Yes, me too.
All right, I guess that does it for the first episode.
That does. This has been awesome. I'm so pumped. I cannot wait to do the. I already can't wait to do the next one. Again, just thank you so much for listening this far, and thank you for getting involved. Please get involved in these writing challenges, and I can't wait to start getting guests on here and all that, and just see where this goes. We hope that Right Guys does for you what we're hoping it does for us, which is just help us become better writers and to keep writing at the forefront of our minds and to push projects across the finish line, whether they be professional projects or passion projects.
Yeah. Creativity can be worked on, sought after, and achieved, and we're here to prove that.
Absolutely.
But
Amen.
have a great week and have a great life, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Right guys out.